there has been a different feeling around this team. As bad as they have been, they just haven't been that team that's looking like they want to show to quit. They don't look like a team that really is just kind of fed up with what they've gone through, right? They're frustrated, they're annoyed by it, but it feels like that drives them every single week to still go out there, still give 100% effort, still feel like they can compete and win in every single game.
I just think, like, at what point is enough enough? You know, like, if you're a member of that defense and you know that this defense is really good, arguably the best in football, and you're watching Dillon Gabriel miss guys that are wide open, you're watching him throw checkdowns behind receivers, you're watching him take really bad sacks where had he just walked up a step into the pocket, he would have been able to deliver a ball. Like, and if you're a member of this defense and you're watching all of that happen for yet another week, like, how much longer can you endure that? Like, how much more can you take before you just kind of throw your hands up in the air and you say, you know what, enough is enough? Like, this kid obviously isn't getting the job done. He hasn't gotten the job done since they replaced Joe Flacco and brought him in there. It's clear that he wasn't ready. You know, we kind of spent this entire week talking about, well, the reason why Shedeur Sanders isn't playing and hasn't played is because he's not ready. Well, what's that mean? Because Dillon Gabriel also doesn't look like he's ready at all.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Dan Lobby at Cleveland.com, and I had brought up the point of, like, basically, is it fair to look at the Browns right now and say that it was a mistake to move on from Kenny Pickett? And he was like, yeah, it kind of feels like the Browns did exactly what they did with DTR. And it was the same thing with Dillon Gabriel, where you take a quarterback, you watch him, you know, throughout practice, throughout training camp, look the part in your eyes, even though we have, you know, several reports that he wasn't looking that great in training camp. Play in the preseason, you thought he looked good enough, and you go, that's my backup quarterback. And then he steps into games, and he doesn't look like he's ready for the NFL. So, like, I think it's like 100% a fair thing to look at, but if we're looking at this team still trying to compete, still trying to go, isn't the idea that Shadore is waiting in the wings, at least maybe for some players, something that you can grasp onto, something that you can hold on to as a reason to keep fighting, keep believing? Because in a lot of ways, yeah, your quarterback might stink right now, but I think a lot of those guys know quarterback might not be the same, you know, even going into next week or a few weeks down the line.
That is true. And I definitely know, like, he's got fans in that locker room. Like, there are guys that are excited about the prospect of playing with Shedeur Sanders. I remember back to the preseason where Denzel Ward was on a podcast with Ocho Cinco and pretty much accidentally, you know, said too much and gave too much to Ocho, like via text, where he said that Shedeur was, like, looking like the one with the most promise early on in camp, even between the vets, you know, even better than Flacco, even better than Pickett. And I remember that kind of got out there and it created a ton of buzz, and it's since subsided, but that just kind of told you, like, he definitely made some fans super early on. I remember when Tony Brown walked into that preseason game with that big staff, and they had the speaker that was playing Shedeur Sanders' own rap song on it as they walked into his preseason debut against the Panthers. Like, a lot of the vets are fans of him. So yeah, maybe they are trying to continue to fight and try to get up for every game because they know that he's kind of in the wings waiting, and it could just be a matter of time, no pun intended, for him to get in there.
Yeah, I mean, we're a couple months removed from that, and it feels like that was a year and a half ago. Like, I feel like that was so long.
Yeah, the walking stick feels like forever ago.
I just don't know. I mean, Tony Brown, they were like, okay, you like Shedeur enough. Maybe somewhere else is for you. Maybe we try somewhere else, which was a wild development, even though, I mean, I wasn't expecting, like, Tony Brown to be on the active roster and a major contributor, but it was a fun little wrinkle that went into it. But I guess part of the thing here, too, Nick, is we look at this game. I mean, if Dillon goes out there and just stinks it up in the first half, which I think is 100% on the table, is there a chance that you think we can see Shedeur at halftime?
I wonder. Yeah, because I feel like you cannot. Like, it is quite literally turning into the definition of insanity, where it's trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, except they've tweaked things. Like, they've tried Dillon now with a different play caller. Like, this is clearly, especially if he doesn't play well in the first half today, this ain't the same quarterback that you thought you drafted in the top 100. Like, they thought they drafted a really smart guy that could see the field really well. He processes information quickly. That hasn't equated to success on the football field in the slightest at all. So continuing to put him out there is really just doing a disservice to him. If the hope was that he could be a smart player that's around the organization for, 5-10 years, like a Case Keenum type backup that's a really smart guy you could just have kind of at your disposal, you're effectively ruining the chances of that being a reality when you're putting him out there and letting him play this poorly. Like, he doesn't even look like he belongs in the NFL as a starter, as a backup, as a third stringer, nothing, nada. So you need more out of him, and if you don't get it, then I think the conversation about Shedeur becomes real. I don't know that they do it in game, because like, if you're telling everybody that he's not ready and he hasn't really been getting any increase of snaps at practice, that's what we've heard this week, is that he's still kind of just running the scout team, even though he is the backup quarterback, because Dillon needs that king ransom of snaps with the ones. Like, I don't know that they do it in the middle of a game, divisional opponent, at home against Baltimore. Maybe if it's a close game and they feel like the quarterback's holding them back and they just need a little bit of a spark, then perhaps, or if it's so out of hand, they just put Shedeur in there and let him have 3 handoffs and punt the ball just to try to get out of there. But I just don't see them making like a panic switch, or they let Shedeur actually turn loose. Like, I can't see that happening today.
Yeah, I mean, it feels very anti-Kevin Stefanski, does it not? Like, to bench your quarterback in the middle of the game and to just move on and be like, okay, well, hey, we're basically done with Dillon right in the moment. It feels like, I mean, if this week hasn't told us anything, that Kevin believes in the plan that they put out there, at least for a given week, if not a given season, where you're just going to continue to do that over and over and over again, and at least let Dillon have the game again, unless you get to blowout scenario, and It's like, okay, let's make sure Dillon doesn't get hurt in this game. It's not an important game, but then, I mean, you make the argument the other way as well. If you're going to Shedeur at some point, you wouldn't want him to be hurt either. But, like, you might just throw him out there for the sake of reps and getting him game action. I don't know. Something is still very odd about all of this, because I went back this week and I watched all of Shedeur snaps from the Rams preseason game, right?
Yeah.
I don't put a ton of stock into preseason games, but I was like, I remember being so critical of this game, and rightfully so. Like, Shedeur took 5 sacks, did not look very good in that game. The stats spell it all out. He obviously got removed before the final drive.
Right.
And it was like, okay, let me just go back and look, because I thought this was bad. Is it equatable to what I'm seeing on the field? Is he that far behind? I went back and I watched, and I was like, and listen, it was not a good game. There were a lot of things you had to clean up, a lot of things you did poorly. I'm just watching him deliver the football, and I'm like, hey, this still isn't as bad as what I'm seeing out of Dillon right now. Like,
right.
Throwing the ball over Malachi Corley's head, spiking the ball 4 yards into the dirt. It's like, you just didn't see those things.
Yeah, because the thing with the Rams game that everybody killed Shedeur for was the sacks. And it's like, well, you look at Dillon Gabriel, he got sacked, 6 times?
Yep.
Against the Jets? Like, that's very different. And that was in an actual regular season game with the Browns starting offensive line on the field. Shedeur's came in the 4th preseason game, or the 3rd preseason game now, with the 4th string offensive line. So it is completely different circumstances. And I think there's an element of this too, where the Browns drafted Dillon Gabriel 50 slots ahead of Shedeur, and they thought that he was a better quarterback, and they're going to give Gabriel every last opportunity to prove that he was a better quarterback than Shedeur, because if they turn to Shedeur and he looks good, obviously the fans will be happy, and it'll be Shedeur mania, and it'll be the hottest selling holiday gift this Christmas season. But I think it would let some of us look at Kevin Stefanski and be like, dude, well, you just wasted all of our time these last 5 or 6 weeks. We could have been playing this kid, and we actually could be competing for something. In this AFC North, we could have been doing something.
But we all know what the sell is there. It was that Shedeur needed time to develop, and they gave him time to develop, and now he looks good. Like,
well, that's gonna fry me, dude. Because like,
I'm not on the same page either.
No,
but you know that's going to be the spin on this.
Yeah, like, okay, because you guys have the secret sauce for developing quarterbacks. Like, you've proven that for sure with Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Dillon Gabriel. That just let these project QBs let you guys get your hands on them, and they'll really turn into something. Okay, yeah, but I'm sure that would be the spin zone. Would be, yeah, see, like, he wasn't ready. Look at what happened against the Rams. He took all those sacks, and now he's miraculously better. Even though this was the kid that we were talking about in the first week of April that was NFL ready and that could have been a first-round draft pick, and whatever happened, obviously, and now he's on the Browns, and he is the backup quarterback today. That's the reality of the situation, but I know, everybody knows what the spin zone's going to be if he does play well.
Oh yeah, it's going to be there. We're both kind of on this. Like, it doesn't feel like this is a game where Shedeur probably takes over at halftime and the Browns make that decision. Maybe
I don't think so. Because, so I gave the argument that, like, maybe if you just felt like you needed a spark and the quarterback was really what was holding you back, and if you inserted Shedeur and he was able to move the sticks a couple times offensively, like, that's what stands in between you and getting a victory against the Ravens and playing some serious spoiler here in the AFC North. the counterspin of that is, well, couldn't you have just done that last week? Because last week was about as bad as it looked. And if there was an opportunity to put Shedeur in a great situation coming off of a bye week against a lowly Jets defense, like, it probably would have been last week to make that halftime switch to Shedeur.
Yeah, probably. I do think I have a different feeling, though, on where this stands as a whole for the Browns actually making a change following this week. If you would have asked me before the Jets game, was Dillon getting the Ravens game in the week following against the Raiders, I'd probably have been like, yeah, it feels like that's the plan. It feels like that's what they're going to go into. This week felt a little bit different on that front, though. Usually, anytime that the media asks about Shedeur Sanders, Kevin almost sidesteps it in a way of turning it back into the team talk and everything else. He had praise for him this week, saying he's been great in practice. He specifically mentioned the red zone drill that he ran after practice was over. Talked about how he's good in meetings. Like, they wanted to start saying positive things about Shedeur, and it feels like that's not an accident.
No, and it feels like we're on the Shedeur step. How about that for Nick Wilson and Jonathan Peterlin? Like, it definitely feels closer now than it ever has, because I think they know, like, you'd be silly not to, that if Dillon Gabriel continues to go out there and continues to deliver these really poor performances, and you do that for the next 7 weeks, you're probably going to finish the season with 2 wins, and you're probably going to be looking for a new job next year. And I know there's all these conspiracies and people that are saying, oh, maybe Kevin would want to go coach Jackson Dart in New York, and maybe he is trying to work his way out of Cleveland. I don't think that's the case. Like, NFL jobs are pretty difficult to come by. Being a head coach in the NFL, super difficult job to come by. Like, I don't think he's trying to get himself fired. In fact, I think quite the opposite. And I really think if Gabriel struggles today, you could have a very interesting Kevin Stefanski press conference, a very interesting Myles Garrett press conference after this one, because they finally might feel pressured into putting Shedeur Sanders onto the football field.
I mean, yeah, you'll know the feeling right after, because it's been Dillon Gabriel's our starter next week. Immediately after, if there's hesitation from Kevin,
if he leaves the door open, man, it's going to be like, if he leaves the door open, that'll be the number one storyline on football night in America before Sunday Night Football tonight. That'll be the number one thing that people will be calling into Ken and Lima about tomorrow. It'll be all eyes on Shedeur Sanders. If Kevin Stefanski leaves that door open for him to start after the game, pay attention to that press conference, because it's going to tell you what you need to know about the direction this team's heading. If they genuinely like Dillon Gabriel and they really think that he can be good and he can be something in this league, then you wouldn't want to bench him unless you're sure that you're ready to open the can of Shedeur worms and really take yourself down that path. Whereas if you put Shedeur in the game today and he plays well, there's no world where you go back to Dillon Gabriel. It's just not realistic in the modern NFL.
It can't happen. Like, even if you're the Raiders and Pete Carroll right now and you're like, Geno's not getting it done this game, let's go to Kenny Pickett. You can go back to Geno the next week. It's a lot harder, but like, you can still make that call and be like, well, we're paying Geno money and we're going to do that.
Right.
You can't do that with 2 rookie quarterbacks, and you can't do that with the hype that's behind Shedeur. It cannot be on the table. And Nick, we talked about earlier, this offense, I thought at least looked different last week. Like, they took a ton of shots, and it's a good time to go inside the numbers here. Brought to you by our good friends over there at Jackson Deacon & Associates. For all your insurance needs, get inside the numbers with Jackson Deacon & Associates. As we look at it, it wasn't just the eye test. Now, these numbers are going to seem very small, and that's just because the Browns have a bad offense. But the Browns recorded 6 plays of 15-plus yards through the air last week against the Jets, which was their highest total since Dillon Gabriel has become a starter. Prior to that, it had been just 4, which was in each of the previous 2 games. They had 4 plays of that. Now, when I talk about 15-plus yards through the air, I am including the 29-yard pass interference penalty. That's still a shot they took down the field. And you also had multiple, beyond 10 yards, which it felt like we weren't getting. They were taking more plays down the field. They were getting Jerry Jeudy involved. I just look at things. I want to believe that's what this offense is going to turn into, and Tommy Rees is going to continue to take those shots. There is also part of me now that sits here, though, and thinks, well, that was one of the most sorry secondaries you're going to face.
Right.
They identified that was going to be a sorry secondary. Does that change when all of a sudden you have a much better defense on the other side of the field, and we go back to a Kevin Stefanski more style offense?
Probably. I think it probably does, because I think the Browns were vocal going into that Jets game that they were going to get Jerry Jeudy the football. Like, we spent 3 hours on the pregame show last week before the Jets game telling everybody bet the over on Jerry Jeudy's receptions, and that came to fruition. position because they force-fed Jerry Jeudy the football. You know how the National Football League goes. I know how the National Football League goes. Teams adjust, teams adapt on a week-to-week basis. So I'm sure the Ravens know, hey, Tommy Rees is calling the plays, and he is going to want to get Jerry Jeudy the football. He's going to want to probably get David Njoku the football. They're probably going to try to get Quinshon Judkins the ball in space. Like, they want to lean on their playmakers. That's great. It's just that when another team adjusts, you got to be ready for that. It's another thing that the Browns have to be prepared for today, that it might not be as easy for Dillon Gabriel to distribute the football to Jerry Jeudy as it was against the Jets.
And again, Inside the Numbers brought to you by our good friends over there at Jackson Deacon and Associates. For all your insurance needs, get Inside the Numbers with Jackson Deacon and Associates. I do think, though, like, you have to wake up and realize that's part of the game plan now. Like, the Browns are not oblivious to the fact that you have to do it. I mean, they watched week after week teams just throw 8 in the box against them.
Yep.
And, I mean, it play a massive detriment to their offense. It kills your run game. It kills the short passing game that you're attempting to do. You have to be able to keep teams honest and be willing to take those shots. And it wasn't like there were a ton of plays where you're just asking Dillon Gabriel to air out the football and go 50 yards down the field and you're taking true shot plays. They were intermediate routes that they were just getting Dillon to throw it 10, 15 yards. And shocker, Jerry Jeudy's open on some of those routes.
And shocker, Dillon Gabriel actually looked like a better quarterback when trying to get Jerry Jeudy the football. Like, I know Lance Reisland kind of repeats it ad nauseum because it is so simple, especially in the NFL when these guys are so talented. And Lance and JP take over for us here at 1 o'clock to get you guys ready for the game today at 4:25. Lance says all the time, you just got to get the ball into your best playmaker's hands. And you've got to do that early in a game so that guy stays engaged. So that should be the recipe for the Browns offensively again today. Try to get Jerry Jeudy involved early and keep him involved throughout the game. He's your best option offensively. And I know he's probably not a wide receiver one on most other NFL teams, and you probably still do need some help in the receiver room this offseason. That all could be true. But for today, for trying to take steps towards being better and being watchable offensively, to me, it's all kind of got to start and finish with Jerry Jeudy getting the football.
Yeah, you have to get him more involved. You have to press the ball downfield. Really, this week comes down to whether or not the Browns are going to be successful on offense. Can Dillon complete the throws that he's supposed to complete? Can he make the throws that he's supposed to make? Because last week the answer was no, and it comes out with a loss. I don't know that it leads you to a win today, but it's whether or not your offense looks good is based on whether or not Dillon can actually do it.
Yeah, because if the answer is no again today, then you are definitely going to have to give Shedeur Sanders a really good hard look. Because, like, dude, and I know it got so much run on social media, but when he missed Malachi Corley, who, by the way, has been a bright spot for this offense.
Big time, yeah.
The jet sweep to Malachi Corley is the one call on the sheet that consistently works. So when they were trying to swing that football to him in space, and Dillon Gabriel just sent a hot air balloon football pass way over his head, you could see it on the field. Malachi Corley was absolutely beside himself. He was throwing a temper tantrum. And Dillon Gabriel says, my bad. Yeah, it is your bad. Nobody else threw that football. So those are passes that have to be completed. That would have been a big gain, if not a touchdown, because Wyatt Teller had put a guy in the dirt. You've got to capitalize on those opportunities when they present themselves, especially because this offense is so bad. Those opportunities don't present themselves very much. So when they do, you got to make the elementary throws, Dillon Gabriel.
And my problem was that's what Dillon was supposed to be great at, right? Like, that was the thing that we looked at Dillon, and I watched the college tape. It's like, if you can trust him to do one thing, it's be accurate, especially in the short field. And the sad part is, like, I get it, you don't have a ton of playmakers around you. The offensive line hasn't been great, but that's what you haven't done. Like, the offense would look better if you could do it. They wouldn't look great, but they'd certainly look better. That's killing you. And then you combo it up with, I mean, he missed Cedric Tillman 5 yards behind him for what should have been a pick last week. It's like, if you can't hit the deep throws, which I'm not saying that Dillon didn't make any, because I thought he had a couple of nice balls down the field, but, like, if you can't make the deep ones, which I really don't think you can, you got to be great in the short game, and he's just neither right now.
It's not just being inaccurate either. It's being wildly inaccurate. Like, you can't be behind receivers in the NFL. Like, the DBs are too good. They will intercept the ball. And Dillon has had tremendous interception luck. Like, I don't know how he hasn't thrown more. So I hope that doesn't come due today, and I hope the Ravens don't have a big day today, because the last time the Browns played the Ravens at Huntington Bank Field, they did get some interception luck, because Jameis had a couple interceptions interception-worthy throws last year that were just somehow not caught. But yeah, Dillon, I hate to sound like Kevin Stefanski. He's got to be better. It's just that simple.
In every aspect of the game, they got to be better.